They smile in your face, but secretly can't stand the sight of you. They applaud your wins in public, but cringe at them in private. They act like they're proud of you, yet something feels off. Their support seems hollow. Their laughter feels forced. You can't quite put your finger on it, but deep down something tells you, this person is not truly for me. They applaud your wins in public, but cringe at them in private. They act like they're proud of you, yet something feels off. Their support seems hollow. Their laughter feels forced. You can't quite put your finger on it, but deep down, something tells you this person is not truly for me. Listen closely, because not everyone who's around you is with you. And not everyone who claps for you wants you to win. There is a behavior, subtle, consistent, and toxic, that reveals someone's true intent. And once you recognize it, you'll start seeing the wolves in sheep's clothing. You'll stop giving your energy to people who don't deserve a minute of your time. Let's expose the truth, piece by piece. They downplay your success because your shine threatens their shadow. People who secretly harbor envy will never genuinely celebrate your achievements. They may act supportive on the surface, but pay close attention to their words, their tone, and their body language. There's always a subtle dig, a sarcastic remark, or an undermining comment cloaked in humor. They'll say things like, you just got lucky, or, well, it's not that big of a deal, or anyone could have done that. These aren't innocent words. These are calculated remarks meant to reduce the significance of what you've accomplished. It's a defense mechanism. They need to believe that what you did wasn't extraordinary, because accepting your excellence would force them to confront their own insecurities. This behavior often comes from people close to you, friends, coworkers, even family. They've seen your journey, but instead of being proud of your growth, they become uncomfortable with your elevation. Not because you did something wrong, but because your rise exposes their stagnation. Your wins remind them of what they haven't done. And that comparison, even if unspoken, creates tension. Instead of saying, well done, they say, don't let it get to your head. Instead of, I'm proud of you, they say, let's see how long it lasts. That's not support. That's subtle sabotage. They won't openly attack you. That would reveal too much. Instead, they undermine you in small, seemingly harmless ways. They'll joke about your success, talk behind your back, or question your capabilities. If you got a promotion, they'll mention how the company is just desperate. If you bought a new car, they'll say it's too flashy or probably leased. If you hit a personal goal, they'll question your methods or suggest you're showing off. But the core of it is this: they're uncomfortable with your progress. It makes them feel like they're being left behind. There's a deep insecurity driving this behavior. People who are fulfilled and confident in their own lives don't feel the need to tear down others. They're too busy building their own dreams to waste time criticizing yours. But someone who's unhappy with where they are will often resent anyone who's moving forward. It's easier for them to believe you don't deserve what you have than to ask themselves why they don't have it. The danger of keeping these people around is that their energy is draining. Over time, their words seep into your mind. You start to question yourself. You wonder if your success is real, if you're really good enough, if maybe you did just get lucky. That's the power of repeated negativity. It doesn't need to be loud to be effective. Your doubts, sarcastic remarks, and fake smiles can be more damaging than outright hate. What makes this even more difficult is that these people often wear the mask of loyalty. They'll claim to have your best interest at heart. They'll position their negativity as just being real or keeping you grounded. But grounding someone shouldn't feel like clipping their wings. Real friends give you perspective, not poison. They challenge you when necessary, but they also cheer for you with genuine joy. They don't need to shrink you to feel tall. They rise with you, or at least celebrate as you rise. When someone constantly downplays your success, it's not about humility. It's about control. They want you to doubt yourself just enough that you never outgrow the version of you that fits their comfort zone. You see, your glow makes them nervous. Your confidence disrupts the hierarchy they've created in their mind. If you become too successful, too powerful, too self-assured, they fear you'll no longer need them. So instead of stepping up and growing with you, they try to anchor you to the ground with passive-aggressive comments and veiled criticism. It's not about you being too big. It's about them feeling too small. You owe it to yourself to recognize this energy and call it what it is: hidden resentment. Not everyone who's around you is rooting for you. Some people are just close enough to monitor your steps and secretly hope you tread. Their presence isn't about support. It's about control, comparison, and quiet hostility. They compete silently, and the scariest part is they do it while pretending to support you. These people are not openly in a rivalry with you. They're not the ones who'll say, "I'm trying to beat you." Now, they're much more subtle than that. They're the ones who clap for you with a forced smile while mentally taking notes on how to outdo you. Every achievement you post, they watch closely. Every milestone you hit, they mark it down. And the next thing you know, they're suddenly making the same moves, but with just enough difference to pretend it's their original idea. This isn't inspiration, it's hidden competition, and it often comes from those who feel threatened by your growth. They can't celebrate your progress because your rise highlights their lack of it. The moment you start doing better, something shifts in their energy. They used to be relaxed around you, maybe even encouraging. But now that you're evolving, they become more tense, more calculated. They start mirroring your steps, not because they admire you, but because they feel the need to prove something. It's not about becoming better for themselves. It's about becoming better than you. That's the difference between inspiration and envy. Inspiration uplifts both people. Envy turns one into a silent opponent. You'll notice how they never used to talk about fitness, but the moment you get in shape, they're suddenly into health and wellness. You start a new business and now they've got a side hustle. You get into a meaningful relationship and suddenly they're posting quotes about love and loyalty. It's never genuine. It's reactive. They're not driven by purpose. They're driven by insecurity. Your evolution feels like a threat, not because you did anything to them, but because your success confronts them with their stagnation. These people treat life like a scoreboard, and they treat your progress like a personal loss. It doesn't matter that your goals are different. It doesn't matter that your journeys have nothing to do with each other. In their mind, they've created an imaginary race, and you're the only person they're determined to beat, even if it makes no sense, even if there's no logic to it. That's what hidden jealousy does. It creates irrational competition where there should be celebration. What makes it even more frustrating is the fact that they'll never admit it. If you confront them, they'll act surprised. "I'm not copying you," they'll say. "I'm just doing my own thing." You know the truth. You see the timing. You notice how every step you take is shadowed by their attempt to match or exceed it. They don't want to see you ahead of them, not even by an inch. And instead of asking how they can improve their own path, they obsess over how to stay in front of yours. You might try to downplay it at first, telling yourself it's all in your head. You might even give them the benefit of the doubt never intended to give. These people thrive on your highlight reel. They enjoy being connected to you when you're shining, when others are watching, when your life makes theirs look more exciting by association. But when the lights go off, when the struggles begin, they withdraw. They're not there to lift you up. They were only ever there to stand next to your shine. And the moment that shine dims, so does their interest. You'll realize you were never surrounded by support. You were surrounded by spectators. The worst part is, when you're at your lowest, you crave connection. You want to believe the people around you are real. You tell yourself they'll come through, that they'll be there, but then days turn into weeks and all you hear is silence. That silence becomes a mirror. It reflects back to you a truth you didn't want to face. They'd been there all along. The truth is, people reveal themselves not in how they treat you when life is good, but in how they behave when life is hard. Some stay, some step up, but the ones who secretly resent you, they fade. Because supporting you would mean rooting for your healing, and they were never invested in your healing. They were invested in your highlights. And now that you're struggling, they have no role to play, no benefit to gain, so they vanish, proving what they felt for you was never real support. It was silent envy disguised as friendship. They copy you without giving credit, and at first it might feel flattering. You think maybe they're inspired. Maybe they admire your creativity, your vision, your voice. But as time goes on, it becomes clear it's not admiration, it's appropriation. They don't just borrow your ideas, they replicate them. Your style becomes theirs. Your words show up in their content. Your moves get mirrored without a single mention of where it came from. And they don't do it to uplift you. They do it to compete, to quietly steal what you've built and pass it off as their own. They watch you closely, always observing, always noting what works. But instead of celebrating your originality, they see it as something to take. They won't say it out loud. But deep down, they want the credit without the creativity. They want the outcome without the effort. And it's not just about copying. It's about erasing the source. They hope that if they do it fast enough, loud enough, consistently enough, people will forget where it came from and start associating it with them. They don't ask questions. They don't seek mentorship. They pretend like their ideas came out of thin air, when in reality, they've been feeding off your innovation. They're not trying to grow alongside you. They're trying to edge you out of your own lane. And the most frustrating part, they'll compliment you publicly, maybe even throw a like on your post, and then turn around and post something eerily similar the next day. Your voice, your tone, your message, repackaged with their name on it. This kind of behavior comes from a place of deep insecurity. They see your uniqueness as a threat. They see your originality as something they can't match. So instead of finding their own voice, they mimic yours because that's easier, safer, less risky. But what they don't realize is authenticity can't be faked forever. Imitation always has an expiration date. Eventually, the truth surfaces. People start to notice the pattern. They begin to sense that what's being presented isn't aligned with who that person really is. And when that happens, the trust breaks. But before it reaches that point, you feel the impact. It drains you. It makes you question if it's even worth creating. Why pour your heart into something only to see someone else take it, copy it, and get praised for it? It's disheartening, it's frustrating, and it makes you feel like your originality is being stolen piece by piece. You start to pull back, you start to protect your work, you hesitate to share, not because you don't believe in your vision, but because you're tired of being someone else's blueprint. And the worst part is, they act like you should be flattered. They'll say things like, "You should be honored, I'm inspired by you," while never acknowledging that what they're doing isn't inspiration, it's imitation. There's a fine line between learning from someone and leeching off them. They crossed that line the moment they took your work and acted like it was theirs. What makes it even more twisted is the fact that they often try to outdo you at your own game. They copy your formula, then add their own spin, trying to convince everyone they're the originator. They post more, talk louder, reach out to the same people you did, hoping to replace your presence with theirs. It's a silent battle you never signed up for. And all the while, they keep pretending like there's no tension, like nothing's wrong, like everything they're doing is innocent and organic. But deep down, you know the truth. You feel the weight of it. You see how calculated their moves are. You recognize the pattern, the timing, the tone, the tactics. They want what you have, but they don't want to give you the respect that comes with it. because giving you credit would mean admitting they're following your lead, and their ego can't handle that. So they pretend, they copy, they compete, all while acting like they're not even watching. But they're watching closely, constantly, because people who secretly hate you don't want to become better than you by growing. They want to beat you by becoming you. They always highlight your mistakes, but stay silent on your wins. And that pattern isn't just coincidence. It's calculated. These kinds of people never seem to miss the chance to point out when you slip up, when something doesn't go as planned, when you fall short in any way. They'll remind you of what you said 2 years ago that didn't come true. They'll bring up the one moment you failed, the one decision that didn't work out, the one time you stumbled in public. And they won't do it out of concern or care. They do it to make sure you remember it. They do it to keep you small in your own eyes and in the eyes of others. They won't tell you directly they have a problem with your success, but they'll use your past against you. They'll talk about your mistakes like they define you. They'll reduce your growth to the worst moments you've had, conveniently ignoring everything you've overcome, because acknowledging your progress would mean letting go of the image they've built of you as someone not quite good enough. And people who secretly resent you need you to stay in that box. They can't handle your evolution. And when you win, when you finally get that opportunity, when you post that accomplishment, when you share a moment of joy, they go quiet. No like, no comment, no message, just silence. A silence that speaks volumes, a silence that confirms what you suspected all along. They were never rooting for you. As if they were, they would have shown up in that moment. They would have celebrated with you. They would have acknowledged that after all the struggle, you finally made it through. But they don't, because your success makes them uncomfortable. What's even more twisted is that some of them will pretend like they didn't see it. Oh, I missed that post, they'll say. Or, I didn't know you were doing that, but you know they saw it. You know they keep tabs on you, maybe even more closely than the people who genuinely care. They knew the moment you won, but it burned too much to congratulate you, because in their mind, your win is their loss. And instead of being inspired, they become bitter. Instead of supporting, they stay silent. And that silence is not passive. It's intentional. They want the world to remember you for who you were, not who you've become. So they keep bringing up your past. They joke about it in group settings. They tell other people's stories that frame you in an unflattering light. They minimize your growth by anchoring you to your lowest points. It's a subtle form of sabotage, but it works because it creates doubt, not just in the minds of others, but in your own. It makes you question if you've really changed, if you're truly making progress, or if you're still that same version of yourself that failed once before. And when they do acknowledge your success, it's never sincere. It's laced with backhanded compliments. Wow, I didn't expect you to pull that off, they'll say. Or, you got lucky with that one, huh? They can't just be proud of you. They have to find a way to make it smaller, to make it seem like it wasn't earned, like it wasn't deserved. Because giving you full credit would mean admitting that you've outgrown their version of you, and they're not ready for that. This behavior doesn't come from strangers. It comes from people you know, people you may have trusted, people you've been vulnerable with, and that's what makes it hurt more. You expect enemies to criticize you, but when it comes from people you've let into your life, it cuts deeper. You start to wonder if anyone's genuinely happy for you. You start to feel isolated in your wins because the people who should be cheering are either silent or subtly tearing you down. But the truth is, their silence is a confession. Their constant reminders of your mistakes are projections. They're not focused on your flaws because they care. They're focused on them because they need you to they need you to remain beneath them in some way, even if it's just in their own mind, because the moment they recognize your growth, the moment they admit your success, they have to face their own stagnation. And that's something they're not ready to do. So instead, they cling to your past, ignore your present, and pray your future. Does it prove them wrong? They support your competition more than they support you. And it's never accidental. They'll pretend to be neutral, pretend like they're just showing love to everyone, but deep down, there's a motive behind every like, every comment, every shout out they give to people who do exactly what you do. They know it stings. They know it sends a message. And that's the point. They could be cheering you on, but they choose not to. Instead, they direct their energy toward the very people you're striving to stand out from. It's a quiet betrayal, a silent declaration that if someone has to win, they'd rather it not be you. This is the kind of behavior that doesn't look hostile on the surface. In fact, it's easy for others to miss entirely, but you feel it every time. When they repost someone else's work that looks like yours, when they hype up your rivals in the same breath they ignore you, it chips away at the trust. It makes you wonder what they're really thinking when they say they support you, because real support is active, it's intentional. And when someone consistently uplifts everyone except you, especially the people trying to take your spot, you start to realize it's not about being fair. It's about choosing sides. What they won't say out loud is that your growth bothers them. Your progress makes them uncomfortable. They see you rising, and instead of stepping up with you, they redirect their energy elsewhere, not because they don't see your work, but because they do. They see how powerful your message is. They see how consistent you are. And that threatens the quiet envy they've been holding on to. So instead of admitting it, they try to bury it. They throw their support behind someone else, hoping to dim your light without ever having to directly confront you. This isn't about friendly competition. It's about subtle sabotage. They don't want to compete openly because then their jealousy becomes obvious. So they do it from the shadows, through who they engage with, through what they share, through the way they hype up your competition while barely acknowledging you. It's meant to send a signal that you're not as special as you think, that you're not the only one who can do what you do. But even deeper, it's a way for them to relieve their own insecurity. Supporting your rival helps them pretend they're not threatened by you, that they've just moved on or prefer a different style. But it's never that simple, because real confidence doesn't require downplaying someone else to feel secure. They want the benefits of being close to you without the responsibility of celebrating you. They want access to your energy, your knowledge, your creativity. But the moment it comes time to publicly support your work, they shrink, they redirect, they choose someone else. Not because that person is better, but because that person doesn't make them feel inadequate. You do. Your excellence puts pressure on them. Your wins remind them of what they haven't done yet. So it's easier to back someone who's doing something similar but doesn't hit as hard. It lets them feel involved without confronting their own lack of effort or consistency. What makes this dynamic even more frustrating is how they justify it. They'll act like they're just spreading positivity or supporting the community when really they're playing politics. They're carefully choosing who to uplift and who to ignore, and you always end up on the ignored list. Not because your work doesn't deserve it, but because your presence makes their envy impossible to hide. Supporting you would mean admitting your greatness, and they can't do that without feeling smaller themselves. The worst part is, they might still keep you close. They'll still comment on your stories, still react to your posts, still engage just enough to keep you from confronting them. But their real support shows up elsewhere, in the way they pour their energy into people who are in the same lane as you. They make sure to be seen clapping for your competition while leaving your achievements. It's a strategic distance. They want to be near your power, but not to empower you. They want to watch your climb, but not contribute to it. Because if they help you rise, they're forced to accept your greatness. And that's a truth their pride won't let them live with. They're overly competitive in subtle ways, And that competition doesn't come from a healthy place of drive. It comes from a deep-rooted desire to outshine you, not grow with you. They disguise their rivalry as ambition, but it's clear their focus isn't on bettering themselves, it's on beating you. They turn everything into a scoreboard. If you start something new, they start something too. If you share an achievement, they suddenly have one to announce. And every time you rise, they respond like it's a challenge, not an inspiration. It's not about growth. It's about outpacing you. They're the ones who always have to one-up your story. You talk about a struggle you overcame, they've overcome something tougher. You mention a success, they suddenly bring up one of their own. Even in conversations that should be about support and connection, they twist the tone into quiet competition. And the most disturbing part is they never admit it. They'll say things like, I'm just trying to keep up, or iron sharpens iron. But the truth is, they're not sharpening anything. They're keeping score. They're watching your every move, not to learn from it, but to find a way to outdo it. These are the people who can't let you have a moment. If the spotlight is on you, they'll find a way to step into it too. You share something meaningful, and they quickly post something similar, just slightly louder or flashier. They crave validation, and they don't care if that means stealing momentum from your breakthroughs. They don't want to collaborate. They want to compete quietly until the attention shifts. And if it doesn't, they start to resent you for it. Because deep down, your success highlights their insecurities. Your confidence reminds them of the self-worth they haven't yet built for themselves. They don't just want to win. They want to win at your expense. And the way they go about it is never direct. It's always through passive comparisons, subtle jabs, or perfectly timed announcements that seem to shadow whatever you've just done. They're the first to bring up what they have going on, and the last to celebrate you when it's your turn to shine. Their support always has conditions, and their praise always has an expiration date. Because it's not about building with you, it's about staying ahead of you. They see your growth not as an opportunity to cheer, but as a threat to their place in the hierarchy they've imagined. It's not just about attention, it's about dominance. They need to be seen as the best in the room, and when you threaten that image, they tighten their grip on whatever status they think they have. They might not say it out loud, but their actions scream it. I need to be better than you. It's why they act cold when you win. It's why they suddenly distance themselves when you level up. It's why they get louder, more active, more present when you're getting noticed. Their movements are responses to your momentum. They're not building their own lane. They're trying to speed up in yours. And what makes it more exhausting is how they wrap this behavior in fake positivity. They smile, they joke, they say things like, I'm proud of you, while secretly measuring your success against their own. They offer compliments laced with tension. They keep tabs on your progress, not because they care, but because they need to stay one step ahead. And when they can't, they start subtly undermining you. They'll question your methods, downplay your results, or suggest that what you're doing isn't all that special. Because if they can't beat you in performance, they'll try to discredit the value of your path altogether. This type of person isn't always loud about their envy. They're strategic. They position themselves close, not to support, but to monitor. They're always watching, always comparing, always calculating their next move based on yours. They might collaborate with you, but not because they believe in mutual success, because they think it keeps them close enough to see your next play. It's not admiration, it's tactical closeness. And the more you shine, the more their quiet competition intensifies. You feel it in their reactions. You sense it in their energy. They don't celebrate you, they tolerate you. Because as long as you're winning, they feel like they're losing. They constantly downplay your accomplishments, as if to diminish the value of your success. Every time you achieve something, no matter how big or small, they find a way to make it seem less important, less impressive, or even unworthy of celebration. It's a subtle form of manipulation that makes you second guess yourself. They won't outright criticize your success, but they'll water it down with comments like, "That's nice, but I expected that from you," or "Anyone could have done that." The praise they offer doesn't feel like genuine admiration. It feels like a concession, something they're reluctantly giving because they don't want to seem like they're ignoring you completely, but deep down, they wish your accomplishment didn't exist at all. This is not about humility or modesty. They don't downplay their own successes in the same way. No, when it's their turn to shine, they expect you to celebrate them fully. They want the applause, the recognition, the validation. But when it's your moment, they'll make sure to redirect the attention elsewhere. If they can't take away your success outright, they'll find a way to make it seem less worthy of attention. They know how hard you've worked, but they'd rather keep you in a state of self-doubt than acknowledge your brilliance. They're terrified of the power you might gain from your own accomplishments, so they try to make them feel insignificant, as though you're not truly deserving of what you've earned. This behavior is rooted in jealousy and insecurity. They can't stand the thought of you shining because it makes them confront their own feelings of inadequacy. Instead of celebrating you, they find ways to shrink you, to diminish your impact so that they can feel better about themselves. It's a quiet form of sabotage, but it's effective. It leaves you questioning if what you did really matters, or if maybe it's not as big of a deal as you thought. And over time, this takes a toll on your self-esteem. You start to wonder if your wins are as significant as you once thought. If you should downplay them yourself to avoid making others uncomfortable. They might not say it directly, but the message is clear. Your success makes them feel small, so instead of uplifting you, they try to downplay your achievements to keep their own sense of worth intact. If they can convince you that your success is nothing special, they can reduce the impact it has on them. And the more they do this, the more you start to internalize it. You start to feel like maybe you're just lucky, or maybe you don't deserve as much praise as you thought. It creates a toxic loop of self-doubt where you question everything you've accomplished and wonder if it's really worth celebrating. But this isn't just about minimizing your success in private. Sometimes they'll downplay your achievements in front of others too. They'll be the ones who make the joke that undermines your hard work, who shift the focus to something else when you're talking about what you've accomplished. They'll act like it's no big deal, as if your success is just part of the natural course of things, like anyone could have done it. But if anyone could have done it, why didn't they? Why aren't they celebrating their own wins in the same way? The truth is, they can't let you be the one who stands out. Because if you're standing tall, it shines a light on their own inability to do the same. In many ways, this type of behavior is a silent form of disrespect. They may act like they're being supportive, but their words and actions reveal a different truth. They don't respect your journey or your hard work. They don't see the sacrifices you've made to get to where you are. Instead, they look at your success as something that threatens their own position, their own sense of control. So they try to deflate your accomplishments to keep themselves from feeling overshadowed. What's even more frustrating is that they might not even be aware of the damage they're doing. They might think they're being humble, or they might think they're doing you a favor by reminding you to stay grounded. But the truth is, they're just reinforcing the idea that your success doesn't matter as much as it actually does. They're trying to keep you small so that they don't have to confront the fact that they may never reach the heights you've already achieved. And while they're doing this, they're slowly eroding your confidence, making you question if your journey has been worth it. This subtle undermining can leave you feeling isolated, like you're constantly battling for validation from someone who refuses to give it to you. And that can be exhausting. You begin to question why you keep putting in the effort when others around you can't even seem to acknowledge the hard work it takes to achieve anything. They're too busy downplaying your successes to even notice the effort behind them. Every time you evolve, they bring up the old version of you. You start healing, they bring up the wounds. You move forward, they remind you of your mistakes. You change, they question if it's real. This is no accident. People who secretly hate you are threatened by your growth. So they'll anchor you to who you used to be because it's safer for them if you stay small, predictable, and broken. But let me tell you,